The Game Boy, Advance specifically, released in Japan on March 21st, 2001, with the SP model coming a few years later in February of 2003. I, like many, wasn't alive for its release. I'm almost 19, feel old, you're old, that's right, I'm talking to you, Kevin, you're old. Regardless, I spent a pretty great portion of my childhood playing a Game Boy Advance, the original purple one with the unlit screen, AA batteries, a link cable for multiplayer, and an absolutely incredible library of 3,501 games. I only owned 9 or 10, but to put that into perspective, that's more than double the amount of games readily playable on the Xbox One, and almost 1,000 more than the PlayStation 3. Having this amount of games available has drawn many people to own one, or two, or five, or too many to count. Now, more than 2 decades after the Game Boy Advance's release, I carry one daily. Here's why. The first reason is pretty obvious and pretty simple: to play games. Sometimes when I'm walking around campus or just sitting on my desk, I want to play a Game Boy game. I don't own any flash carts or third-party 501 bootleg cartridges, so I stick to the library of games I obtained as a child. Got some you might recognize, like Super Mario Bros. 3 and Pokemon Leafgreen, but also a few outliers, like the Hamtaro series and this weird horse game.
Oh, that is quite the soundtrack. Oh no. Oh yeah, there he is.
Currently, I've been playing through Hamtaro Heartbreak, a cute RPG adventure game about hamsters falling in love. It's really good, you should seriously check it out. That could also be my nostalgia talking, but it's still a good game. I only tend to carry one game with me at a time, just sitting in the Game Boy until I complete it and move on to the next one. I know some people like to dump all their games, or legally acquire them, to put on a flash cart, but I really enjoy the feeling of switching out cartridges. Even better, many old game carts have save batteries in them, so I can switch between my Game Boys and not lose any progress. There are seriously a lot of great games that were made for the Game Boy Advance, the Game Boy Color, and the Game Boy, all of which are playable, of course, on the Game Boy Advance. Something about the old graphics and the limited sound card, I think, make a lot of these games really charming, because the developers had to work within restrictions to still make a game that is great. I mean, nowadays, we can pretty much run ridiculously lifelike, near-like, perfect, close to reality renders in real time on our computers, and I think that can sometimes take away from some of the artistry that older games had. I mean, obviously there's the nostalgia value. I'm not just gonna sit here and pretend that I don't get nostalgic playing Game Boy games, because I do. Everyone does, but I mean, even after all that, they're still just great games, and I like playing them, so, you know, that's why I have it. The modding scene for the Game Boy Advance, and really the entire series of Game Boys, is super active, and it's only picked up the older the Game Boy has gotten. Online stores selling third-party parts, custom mod chips, reproduction shells, and customizable accessories have made breathing new life into an old game console super easy, not to mention the abundance of guides on Game Boy modding all over the internet. As with many niche hobbies, it can get quite expensive to buy old tech, with good condition Game Boys selling for around the same price as they originally released for. The demand from collectors and modders has unfortunately kept these prices quite high, but I believe it's worth it. The feeling of taking a device that many would consider old, deprecated, and phased out, and giving it newfound purpose in the modern world is really rewarding, and it allows for a lot of individuality and expression through different color combinations and other third-party mods. Some people have even repurposed the Game Boy Advance's motherboard to turn it into new devices, like a retro console to plug into a TV. The evolution of the Game Boy and other old tech into a device beloved by the passionate communities invested in keeping them around really provides a unique outlook on old tech itself. Really, much of tech that we replace every couple of years, or even yearly, still works perfectly fine and does what it's meant to do. The concept of using old tech in the modern day really intrigues me. Nowadays, nearly everyone has a phone or other mobile device of some kind that they can use for almost everything, like talking to friends, gaming, social media, taking photos, the list goes on. But somehow I find that this convenience and universal approach can take away from the charm of dedicated devices. Even though my phone plays music, takes photos, and can still be used for communication, I carry around devices for each of these tasks. From a sort of mental health standpoint, my camera won't notify me of how my Instagram posts are doing, and my Game Boy won't yell at me to read new privacy policies. Now, don't get me wrong, I love sharing posts on social media, I love new technology, but I think the use of dedicated technology from a slightly less modern era allows me to remain more connected with the world around me and focus more on everyday life. Allowing myself to exist in a real social space while also playing a game and not having to worry about hearing a notification sound every few minutes is really nice. If more people took this approach and appreciated their old tech, used it for what it was made to do, I think they'd agree. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video and my thoughts on the Game Boy as well as other old tech. Maybe you agree, maybe I'm overanalyzing it too much. Let me know with a like, a dislike, or a comment. I'll probably record some more video essays in this style with my new camera, so let me know your thoughts on that too. I never know how to end videos like this. Video essay, more like video gay.